I'm Terilyn Shropshire, and I began editing actually in college. I was a double major both in broadcast journalism, and I was also a film and television student. In the early classes, you had to shoot, you had to edit, sound, you did everything. So it really allowed me to actually become a better filmmaker when I went out to direct, to come back and then have to work out the problems that I didn't quite figure out on set. There's so much you learn, I think, as a filmmaker when you have to edit your own material. And it just turned out that for me, of all of the different things I had to go out and do, I loved the process of finding the story and editing, I think, more than I did actually going to set. What I try to do, I have a little bit of a mantra where I say, forget what you know. And I really try, the first time I watch dailies, is just to be the audience, just to be that person in the theater, popcorn in hand, Diet Coke in the other one, just watching the performances as they're coming in. And then I'll go back after I've done that, and then I'll start to really kind of hone in more on moments or making notes, that kind of things that either made me laugh or cry. I think once you start getting into a professional situation, I think having an editor and a director relationship is the right kind of perspective. I think that you give each other as creative people a certain degree of your own perspective, and I think that really helps a director at times, and it helps an editor too, to be able to, even when you have your own block, to have someone next to you who makes you think of it or look at it a different way. If I was ever going to direct, my desire is more making sure that when they go back and do pickup shots, or they do inserts, or they do anything that has to do with the cut, the storytelling that I'm responsible for, it's just really helpful to kind of be able to let production know as soon as they're done shooting something, if I need an additional shot, or if there's a pickup that I need, or an insert. And part of that is just knowing where you want to be and knowing what moments within a scene is really that key point. Often the Avid tools just become instinctive. You don't even think about which one you're using, because they really do help the process. Being able to watch both cameras or multiple cameras at one time and really kind of hone in, and sometimes even start to pick moments by just editing and multicam is a huge help. Having the ability to mute a track, both visually and sonically, is hugely helpful if I want to keep either multiple takes of a performance or a piece of music or a sound. I think the rubber banding function where you can move, ultimately, if you set certain volume levels and you're able to transfer it to a different track, is hugely helpful. Often editors will say, for those of you that are aspiring, it is about editing and trying to get those opportunities however you can. But I think part of it is also watching films. And I don't mean watching films for the editing, but really watching films for the storytelling. And then when you then watch a film, really thinking about why it works or why it doesn't. And I think ultimately you'll learn the technique. You can go into a class and learn how to use a tool. But what you really need to know is, once you use that tool, how do you tell the story? The tools out there now, there's so much ability to watch films. I mean, I don't ever remember coming up being able to see films that you can now on streaming and social media. I mean, any film that you would possibly want to see is available to you, and filmmakers and commentaries, and ultimately going to things like London Edit Fest or New York Edit Fest. Go to where ultimately you can hear editors talk about what they're doing, but just go and take your iPhone, shoot something, take it home, cut it. Whatever means you can to get yourself in the chair, I think, is what you really need to do.